Hey there, fight fans. It's John Pollock here with you. In case you missed UFC 156 this past weekend, we're going to get you all caught up, including 6 underdogs prevailing, and 1 man remains on top of the 145-pound mountain. Then we're going to bring in John Ramdian and Robin Black for our panel discussion, where we will yell, argue, and scream about the fallout of UFC 156. So let's get started. The main event of UFC 156 saw champion Jose Aldo Jr. retain his featherweight gold, going the distance with challenger Frankie Edgar and earning a unanimous decision on scores of 48-47 and 49-46 twice. Who is next for Aldo? Well, it could be Anthony Pettis, who stated his desire to cut to 145 and challenge Aldo following the fight. Antonio Silva strung together his second consecutive W with a TKO upset over Alistair Overeem 25 seconds into the third round. The win by Silva leaves no obvious choice to challenge Cain Velasquez for the heavyweight gold after Overeem was earmarked for a title fight had he been victorious. And the search for contenders extends down to the middleweight mix as the UFC seeks out a challenger for Anderson Silva later this year. After Michael Bisping was stopped by Vitor Belfort last month, talk moved to the idea of Rashad Evans moving down to middleweight and getting the title shot. But after a horrendous performance Saturday night, dropping a split decision to Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, it appears that Chris Weidman now becomes the frontrunner for a summer collision with Anderson Silva. It's Robin Black, John Ramdian, and John Pollock here dissecting UFC 156 from Saturday night. Main event, Jose Aldo retains his featherweight title, getting the unanimous decision. I had this 3 rounds to 2. How did you score this one, John?
I would say 3 rounds to 2 works. I've heard the argument that it was 4 rounds for Jose Aldo, 1 round for Frankie Edgar. I would say that Frankie did a little bit more, and let's give him the respect and say that he won those last 2 rounds. Of course, it is very subjective. But I know a lot of people are saying, wow, Frankie Edgar looked amazing in this fight, which he did, but he was facing one of the pound-for-pound best in the world in Jose Aldo. We have to look at the performance of the champion. You go back and you look at that Hominick fight. I know he had a lazy jab and he didn't have, the best striking. I think he improved greatly since that Hominick fight, and I think that's why he continues to be recognized as the pound-for-pound best, because he continues to evolve.
Yeah, you talk about perspective. You can watch a fight. 7 guys can watch a fight in 7 different ways. You can watch it yourself different, too. I was battling the flu, and I had a couple of drinks, and I'm just trying to hang in there for that last fight. And when I watched it now, I liked Frankie Edgar all the way through. I thought at the time he had possibly won round 3 and definitely won 4 and 5. I'm going to have to go back and watch that again. But when you watch it and you see guys at this level, what you take out of a fight like that is you could have that fight 10 times. You could have 50 rounds of that fight, and the chances are in the end of it, somebody wins 25 of them, somebody wins 25, or somebody wins 27 and 23. They're that close. For a guy like Frankie Edgar, he's been on the wrong end of a few of those, and that must be really hard to take.
Yeah, I think this one, a close fight, but not one where I think there's any outrage that Frankie Edgar was the rightful winner here. I just don't think that's the case, and he finds himself in a position right now where I think whether it's 155, 145, he probably beats 90% of the division, but unfortunately can't beat that number 1 guy. If you're
He's Uriah Faber right now.
He really is kind of in that spot right now, and if you're his team around him, do you see him pursuing 145? There's the 135 talk that had begun before this fight had even commenced. Where is Frankie Edgar's destination?
I think right now 145. Yes, he's coming off this, trying to get the title. It didn't happen for him. Give him a couple of fights that are very, very winnable, which are most fights in the 145.
For Frankie Edgar,
he beats most guys
exactly.
at 145.
But he needs the victories right now. 3 losses in a row isn't good for anybody's career. And we know his coaches are saying that this is a guy that should go down to 135 pounds. Get him some big victories at 145 pounds, and then maybe go down to challenge Dominic Cruz or Michael McDonald or Renan Barao, whoever finds their way to the top of the heap.
It's crazy because at 55, people were saying he's entering the cage smaller than an upper-level 135er. And at 45, he was still entering the cage smaller than an upper-level 135er. So that's possible. But if you're Frankie Edgar, go fight 2, 3, 4 fights at 145, get close to contention, either find yourself for a shot again, or maybe you go, man, I could make 135. But right now, you go, you have some drinks, you enjoy your traveling around with your girlfriend and your friends, you get your mind off fighting for a couple of weeks, and then you come back to it.
Well, Frankie Edgar's married, so I would advise him to stay away from the girlfriend right now, at least in public. They got fight of the night honors. The other side of the coin was Rashad Evans and Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, an absolutely horrendous fight with Antonio Rogerio Nogueira getting the split decision win. I think you could have made arguments for just about any score here. If you had this 30-30 at the end of 3 rounds, I think you could have made a justification because there was so little here in terms of who won each round. Great for Nogueira that he wins this fight, and it really kills off any potential middleweight title rumors with Rashad Evans.
For sure. And, you know, it's funny. I guess it's all about expectation because they fought the same fight. But for Nogueira, this was a great victory that he just snatched away from a tough guy. But for Rashad, man, this is a big failure. Second fight in a row. The last one, yes, it was a title fight. Second fight in a row where he just can't pull the trigger. He seems really tentative, you know, unwilling to engage. He's got so much talent. But this was an enormous step backward for him.
What I like about this performance is that Nogueira, you know, it's when you look at how to win fights right now, it's not necessarily you go out there and try to slug it out and try to get the KO or the submission. You've got to have the best game plan, and you've got to do whatever it takes to have your arm raised in victory, and he did exactly what he needed to do. Number one, he came in incredible physical condition. You saw him, his body's changed in comparison to the last fight. Number two, it was the sprawl. He was able to get back up after Rashad took him down to the ground, and then he used that jab of his all night long. Rashad had no answers for it, and I think he looked very, very good in the sense he implemented his game plan and was rewarded for it. And what does he do? He goes and he screws up the entire 205-pound rankings because of it.
And Antonio Silva did the same thing at heavyweight, upsetting Alistair Overeem. Quick pick. Who is next for Cain Velasquez right now? I think they go the JDS trilogy fight at this point. Not that I want to see that fight so quickly after their second fight, but I think they're out of options right now.
Yeah, unless you pull some weird storyline out of your back pocket about somebody hating somebody, or Chael Sonnen just wants to go up another weight class and call somebody out, that's the fight.
I think you can sell it. It's a rematch between Cain Velasquez and Bigfoot. You know, people say, well, you know, Bigfoot and Cain, the first fight. Well, the same thing can be said about the Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez fight. Cain got taken out in quick times. He came back, had a 25-minute war. Who's saying that Bigfoot can't do the same with Cain in the rematch? So I think that's an angle that they could use, but I think the fight that makes the most sense is the rematch between the rubber match between Dos Santos and Velasquez.
6 underdogs come through at UFC 156,
Damian Maia.
and a bunch of divisions are completely out of whack. Keep it tuned as we continue here on Fight News Now Extra.